Good morning. Morning, everyone. I know people are quickly joining, so I'll give it a minute. Good morning, good morning. Happy Friday. Happy end of first week of school, 2023-2024 school year. All right. We got 17 people, so I'll go ahead and get started. I'm Katie Howard. I am the Board of Education District 1 rep, and this is my monthly Friday morning virtual coffee. It's so great to see all of you here, and happy end of first week of school. It was great being out in the schools this week and just being around all the energy and excitement. I see it as like one big reunion of students and families and educators. It's so awesome. So excited to have this time with you all today. And again, I know people are joining, and it's great to see people I call my great regulars and some new people as well. So did not have a meeting in July, which I hope everyone got a little bit of a break. I know summer can be busy too, but it's great to be starting back this first week in August. So we haven't even had our first board meeting yet. Of course, it's Monday the 7th. So I don't have that to cover after the fact, but I will touch on some things we will be talking about on Monday. Most importantly, our progress monitoring report. As you all know, I always give an update on student outcomes focused governance, since we are a student outcomes focused governance board. And I'm really excited about us measuring two of our guardrails for the first time. This is a learning process for all of us, and I'm really appreciative of staff who have worked hard on coming up with metrics to measure our goals and our guardrails. And our guardrails are really important because they represent the values of our community. And they essentially lay out what the superintendent cannot do or allow in order to accomplish the goals. And I know that's a different way of looking at things, but the intention is to be a guardrail. We don't direct the superintendent on how to do their job. That's what they have the experience to do and the education to do. But we certainly tell them what our priorities are and the parameters in which to do that work. So our guardrails will be monitoring on Monday, and you can look at the report come, I think, Sunday night. It'll be posted in Assembly. Is around stakeholder engagement and climate and culture. And it's so critical that we do this work in terms of transparency for, number one, how do we best serve students? How do we create that culture and climate for our staff, our educators, administrators, bus drivers, people working in the cafeteria, everybody? We're really collaborating and trusting one another, and our families, how we're really engaging with them, really two-way conversation and feedback with them. And it is a continual process. So we're learning and growing. So I'm so excited for you all to see what will be presented to us on Monday and hear us ask questions about it and really dive into it, because it's the start of what has got to be done. We say these things, we've got to do them when it comes to being open and transparent and showing how we are building and continuing to strengthen our district to best serve students. So that will be on the agenda. And I know there are a lot of you on this call who everyone should have received word last night, our announcement about our transition. I'm very excited about Dr. Danielle Battle coming on as our interim superintendent. I hope everyone saw the press release so you can see a little bit about Dr. Battle. She has a lot of experience. I guess I'm a little biased too, because she was the principal at Parkside, where my kids went. My kids actually didn't have her. She was before them, but she really set that school up for success. When it first opened, she was the second principal, I think, 6 months into its opening. And when it opened in 2001, and then she went on to King Middle School, where my kids also went. They did not have her, but she again did a lot of tremendous work there. And then of course worked at the district level, and was, right underneath the superintendent with the leadership even before the clusters were created, and then stayed on too. And deeply appreciative of all the work Dr. Herring has done, and the setup between her and Dr. Battle, with her being a consultant. And that, of course, will end at the end of December. But Dr. Herring's time with us as superintendent ends at the end of August, and Dr. Battle comes on beginning of September. So I think we have a really strong plan and leadership transition laid out. I'm thankful for my colleagues and how we work together and really focus in on serving students and how we make sure we do the best job around transitional change and supporting the entire organization to continue that work. So the press release lays it out. I included it in my newsletter update last night. I'm hopeful that, we can make sure that all families get it somehow too, because not everyone is plugged into every media outlet. I know it's on the news and it's getting out there, but I want to make sure everyone has access to that. So I know the board leans in on how we can best make that happen too. So I will field questions best I can on that topic, but certainly happy to talk about it to the extent I can. And yeah, I mean, just in terms of what I've been doing, I've made lots of visits with many of my colleagues. I see Tamara on. Good morning, Tamara. Trying to see anybody else on this morning. Of course, we have awesome district staff who I'll introduce.
We have board member Jessica Johnson on the call as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, Jessica. Hi, I'm quickly going through names. Jessica Johnson, our at-large 9 board member. Thanks for being here. So we all got to stop in on schools this week, which was great. I got to Parkside. Well, some of them I did during open house, which I love doing that, and just seeing families, and also being my own kids' open house at Jackson. King, Parkside, Hope Hill. I went the first day. They had the awesome tradition of welcoming all the kids into the school with a live DJ. It's so much fun. And then I got to go to Springdale Park in Virginia Highlands Elementary, and so impressed by all the hard work of community with Virginia Highlands Elementary and opening that school up. And obviously a lot of work at the district level. Thank you, Travis, and so many people who worked so hard to make that happen. It is really awesome to see that grassroots effort in supporting a school start, and even transition for schools. And that's what I'm a product of in APS. And so can't thank the community enough for all the hard work they put in. It's cool to be in my old middle school, Inman, back in the day in the 80s, and see lockers for all the elementary school kids. I'm like, I think that was my locker in 6th grade. At least the stairwells still look the same. The kids had some feedback on the stairs. I think they feel they're a little old, but they make me happy. And then, yeah, I got to Jackson and Carver, and it was great going into Carver STEAM and seeing the plane they're building firsthand. They're just great things happening throughout our system. And I encourage people every opportunity they get to go check our schools out. And I'm looking forward to being a part of helping make that happen too, especially in Board of Education District 1. So with that, I will stop. I do want to make sure I recognize staff from the district. We have Crystal, we have Emily, we have Matt Underwood, we have Keisha Copeland. I see family engagement. It's represented as always. Y'all are the best. Strategy, Travis, partnership. Well, Matt, I will give you a second later on to kind of explain where you are now, like in the structure, the shift, with partnerships, charter oversight. And of course, we have Keith, who is amazing in keeping us all organized, and I know Pierre and Demesia from the board office. So thank you guys so much. And I'm going to stop there. And Keith is going to give us our kind of, I won't say rules, but just how we do the meeting, because I do have a hard stop at, let's say, 10:05, because I've got an 11 o'clock meeting I need to prepare for. But yeah, Keith, I will let you take it away, and I can't wait to hear questions and just talk with you guys.
All righty. So good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another wonderful school year. As always, this is a new school year, but we're still going to conduct our meeting in the same form that we've done in previous meetings. And so that is, if you do have a question, we do ask that you get directly to your question or make your statement so that we can have enough time to hear from everyone. Again, we do have a hard stop at 10. And so it is imperative that we get directly to questions so that we can hear from as many people as we can in this time frame. As always, please raise your hand so that we can place you into the queue. And then we will call on you as you are in the queue, as Whitney has done. And so Whitney will be our first person. Good morning, Whitney.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Whitney.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having these meetings, and I appreciate your engagement. I've been a APS parent for 10 years now, and I've got a lot of new families on my block that I'm trying to re-engage because you have kindergartners, first graders. I know a lot of people on the board have older kids or may not have kids, and there's been some disheartening responses where they've sent in emails, they've done the Let's Talk, they don't get response. It takes 2 months. And I'm trying to be a really good steward. And I had a conversation with Tamara about this too. And Katie, I'd like to hear from you. I want to hold you guys accountable that it shouldn't take 2 months to get a response to an email. But what would be your advice for me to tell these new families to get them engaged in the process when their first interactions are, we send an email and it takes 2 months to get a response?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry, we have a new kitten in our house and it's really active. And by the way, I did go over to Howard Middle School. I realized I forgot to say that. So I want to make sure I put that out there. I'm excited about everything going on over there. And Whitney, I really appreciate you encouraging families to use Let's Talk and ask questions. So right off the top of my head, I would say, let me know if someone has have them email me the email they sent and how it has not been responded to yet. And I will definitely send it on to folks at our board office and the superintendent, because we need to make sure we have follow through. That is extremely important.
But I think it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for the families. Like they send the email through Let's Talk, or they come to these meetings, or it's a constant follow-up on their part. And I'm trying to encourage them to be engaged, and they just get disgruntled and disheartened.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And it's not the case all the time. I mean, let's put that out there too. I mean, there are a lot of responses that come right away, but that's why I want to know in particular what it is. So if I know that's one extra step, but I really need to know that information. But yes, as an organization, it is definitely talked about continually about the importance of using the Let's Talk tool, because it really helps us keep a record. And I want to point out that Chanel, they were there with the Let's Talk booth at the Back to School Bash, and they have some new ways that they're getting out the information to the community, like a QR code, and also the follow through internally. I mean, there's definitely a push with the district to make sure, and I don't know if anybody wants to chime in on this, about making sure we are really following up on Let's Talk requests and really knowing how to understand the tool. Because
if they're like an SLA or an expectation of, if you send something into Let's Talk, you should get an answer in a week, or you should get an answer in, there should be some kind of accountability that if you're asking us to do that, then there's an expectation it shouldn't take 2 months, right? Like,
could not agree more. And now that it's in the system, we know how long it's taken. So that's why I would love to know from those families or whoever that is, if you would even forward something or give me their number, I'll call them up and find out specifically what it is. And I will certainly relay that to the people who need to know. So I'm glad you brought it up. And please, everybody, use Let's Talk. Because again, it shows us a record. It also can show us gaps in the system where we need to tighten, but it's an extremely effective tool. We all have to use it as it should be used.
And Board Member Howard, if I could I add something?
Please.
So definitely completely agree. I put into the chat, we've been sharing Let's Talk reports at the end of each month to kind of increase our transparency on what we hear from Let's Talk. And so that's the direct site to our Let's Talk overview, but it can be linked by this new website called APS Connects that I'm kind of cleaning up today, but you can kind of check it out now. Here you'll see reports of what are the most common questions, what are the most common teams, how many Let's Talks we receive, the average date, length of time it does take to respond. And there is kind of protocol on expectations for responses. And that's why we can see it at this high level and we can drill down. But when you do get, particularly if it's the same type of question or the same person who's not responding, or same topic, please either put it to general inquiries, put it to me, reach out to Katie, whatever we can do, particularly if it's the same person, because we are focused on it, and you can see the reports that we pull every month.
And I think it would be helpful if you're asking families to go there to put in that Let's Talk, you should receive a response within 7 days or 5 days.
Yep.
Or like give people an expectation of what's reasonable for you guys to respond, and let them know, like, oh, I
Absolutely.
haven't heard in 3 weeks. I haven't heard in a month. Like, when am I supposed to hear back? If that's what you're pushing everybody to, because right now it's email, let's talk, email the board members, call, leave message. It's a lot of work to give feedback. So
Completely agree. It is, and Pierre can correct me if I'm wrong on the time frame. Our guidance is 5 days for the kind of initial response, and then there's automatic escalation within Let's Talk, that if you don't respond, then it goes to your supervisor. And then if they don't respond, it goes to their supervisor and works its way up the system. And so we just want to make sure where there are those flaws, particularly, let's say the person moved and or something, we can address it. But completely agree, and really working this year on strengthening the engagement opportunities we have in place so that people can just get it done. I appreciate it, Wade.
Yeah,
And
thank you so much, Travis. Thank you for bringing it up, Whitney. And please, Pierre, share.
No, I was going to say Travis is
If you have
correct
anything.
on the escalation piece, but I will take, I think you made a great point. We do have an automatic response when you submit a dialogue, and just making sure that we set the expectation around the time frame in that piece so that people can see that. I'll have that conversation with our administrator here on this side to see if we can include that as part of the automatic response, so that people will know if you have not heard from somebody in X number of days, that's an issue, and we'll follow up on that. So Whitney, I'll take that back.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Whitney, for bringing it up, because you know me, I'm always talking about Let's Talk, because we need to use that tool, and we are. I really appreciate Travis and Pierre and all they do to make sure there is follow through. All right. Keith, anybody else, or Whitney, anything else you want to add?
I don't see any more hands at the time.
Hey y'all, I ain't raised my hand, but
Hey, Waikisha, how are you?
I'm good. Hey y'all, welcome back. Hey,
Yes, welcome
Pierre.
back. Happy end of first week of school.
I first want to start by saying, big shout out to the engagement family and Travis for putting that website together. Dion has an excellent point. Putting the Let's Talk button right there. That'll be super dope. I do want to echo Whitney's sentiment. Like, I do think we just need some response, because sometimes, like, you can put something in there and it don't go nowhere. And I know I have experience where I don't put something in there and the principal like, hey, what's going on? And that could be just me, but sometimes you may not get anything. But this is my question for you. I just seen an article, like I literally just seen this article, which is interesting, about the revitalization of Lakewood. Now this is not too far from me. Have you heard any talks about it? Have you guys been having meetings or made decisions about it? Or is it something that's coming up?
What article are you referring to? I haven't seen an article about revitalization. I mean, what article specifically are you referring to? I mean, I can share what I know in terms of FMP, but I want to make sure I know exactly what you're referring to.
It may be, Board Member Howard, it may be, I know last week NPR did a panel with some community members in Lakewood, and I think I have the right link to it.
Sorry, Waikisha?
No, it's just the Business Chronicle.
Okay.
It looked like a developer just did an article. I like, maybe it's something that he might want to do, but I'm like, I haven't heard anything about thing moving forward.
Yep.
I was seeing, have y'all made a decision on that?
No, not officially. It's a short answer. And I'll find that article. And I did attend the closer look with Rose Scott, because I wanted to hear what was talked about. So I was there, Travis. But thank you for putting the podcast in there. Yeah, and Tamara was with me, and so was Jessica Johnson. We all attended the Lakewood Heights Civic Association meeting the other night, because, I mean, as you're familiar, Waikisha, there's a lot of conversation in that community about the school building. So we're supposed to have an FMP update at the end of this month, is what I was heard was being planned. Haven't heard official word on that. But at that time, we'll have an update on where things stand with Lakewood Heights Elementary School building, as well as the other properties that have been deemed excess. So no official decision's been made. It's still where it was sitting before in the excess bucket. And then you can go back and listen to the presentation facilities made then around options for potential options for some of the excess properties. And a lot of them were steered at affordable housing. And that's one of the number one priorities the board has set in terms of how we can support that effort appropriately from our standpoint as our focus is students, but we obviously have these publicly owned properties so that we have deemed excess. So stay tuned for the end of the month. I'll put out information about that coming up and it will be blasted out, but no
Right, I got
official decisions have been made.
If I could jump in here really quickly, I'll try to put a link to that presentation that the facilities master planning did in a retreat back in March so that you can kind of see what they were proposing. I think what you're asking for, what other people are asking for, is what is the process by which they're going to be deciding what to do with the properties and how does the public get engaged? And
that's the main part. I just wanted to
yes, and so that's what we're trying to get is, a spelled out process so that everybody can understand what steps go into just making a decision and how the community is engaged with that. And I think in the absence of having something very well spelled out like that, people try to create their own engagement, and it can go sideways. And so I understand what you're saying. And I think Katie was, spot on in saying we're still trying to deal with this. And there's still more steps in the process, before we have it fleshed out.
That's great. I just want to, given what's happening with the housing market here, I would hate to see a greedy developer, and it looked like just somebody just going ahead of you guys, which is sad. And I really hope that the community can be part of all of the conversations, because this affects them. So thank you guys for that.
Absolutely. No, it's still with us, and stakeholder engagement is critically important and is required per this guardrail that we'll be discussing on Monday too. The superintendent may not make any major decision without putting forth and having a community engagement plan and actually doing that work. So absolutely,
Okay.
F&P is part of that. And I'm with you, Keisha. Affordable housing is the number one crisis in this.
Hold on, let me ask you this. Now, you just said something very important. Now, I just hopped on, forgive me. But to your point now with the superintendent, if the superintendent, what I understand for yesterday, is leaving the end of the year, I really will hope that she's not making no decisions, and we can have a smooth transition, because it'll be, I don't want to see nobody messing that up as they walking out the door, So I hope that she wouldn't be, making no very critical decisions about communities, and she's leaving. So I just want to lift that up.
I hear you. And I want to put this out there too. The goals and the guardrails, that is our compass. And leadership obviously is extremely important in that. And that's the board's job. But having this framework is extremely important. So the expectation continues. I mean, that is what we've set as our priorities, our goals, and our guardrails. So no matter you follow me, like that is
I got you.
Follow. So we do need to have the FMP update, and like Tamara said, that includes explaining and having that process for engagement when the administration puts forth, like, okay, we're ready to move forward on what we're thinking. And then yes, the question for the board is, what does the engagement look like with the community around that proposal? And how are we going out to the community to have that conversation and present that? So stay tuned. But I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you. And always happy to talk about the affordable housing issue, and, like Tamara says, sharing that meeting where we definitely talked about that during the meeting, and we went through an exercise even before that to lay it out as one of our priorities for sure.
And I just dropped the presentation for that into the chat, but if you wanted to go listen to the meeting, it's March 23rd on Facebook Live. So you can go back and listen to the meeting if you wanted to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. That's hugely helpful because that makes it easy. And listening to the meeting is really helpful, I think, too. Great questions. Thank you, Waikisha.
All right. Thank you, Waikisha. So we'll go Dion next. Good morning, Dion.
Morning, Dion.
Good morning. Happy first week. I know this is a crazy week, so I appreciate all of your guys' time and having this engagement and doing it consistently as something to rely on. Really appreciate it. You mentioned the facilities master plan, potentially an update at the end of the month. Would that include also information about our cluster? We haven't gotten any updates on the superintendent's plan to solve our overcrowding with address verification and innovation. And we were supposed to get communication about that in June. Travis, yes, I know I reached out to you, but I'm one of many who would like that, and we have not gotten any communication. So I hope that, this is more of a statement, I hope, Katie, that rolls out soon as possible. It would be amazing. And then the other big thing in our area is the new math rollout and the removal of some accelerated math in the middle school and what's happening with that. I know personally there's a lot of discussion about trying to figure out school-based solutions. I know it was big conversations in North Atlanta cluster too, and we would like to have a seat at the table before anything else is done with that. And last item, funding. I think at the end of the year last year, many of us had concerns about the budget. So just would like to ask you and encourage you and appreciate that you guys want to be more involved in that budget and change what that process looks like, and hope that Dr. Battle can quickly get on these things and help our community. I also would love to see cluster engagement meetings dates by the end of next week for every cluster with Dr. Battle. And I know you guys are not paid enough, but I really think it would be important for you guys, all board members, to get out a little bit more and offer community talks like this to help build that trust. And during this transition, I really, really think it is important. It is such a big thing that you offer here, and it is greatly appreciated by many across Atlanta.
No, I'm glad you brought up all those things. With the update around verification of attendance area, Travis, I hate like putting you on the spot. Do you have anything you could share right now in terms of, I mean, I'll certainly include this in my questions to the superintendent that I got, and we need to share updates around that process, but do you have anything to share?
No,
right
I'll have to
now
look
on
at,
that?
Corey Edwards, I think, did send a response, or Iris sent it on behalf of Corey, related to, their team was doing home visits, like the last kind of the final stages of residency verification. And so didn't want to share an update until that portion was complete. And so I'll follow up with him. I think our goal on sharing an update on all the different elements of it was kind of in mid-August, but we'll see if it makes sense to tie it into the FMP retreat or whatever takes place in August anyways.
Excellent.
So
Thank you so
I'll
much
go
for
with
that.
facilities. Yep.
And I made a note, so I'll just include that, and I'll include what, that, yeah, you shared as well. In terms of, changes around math, curriculum, I agree. We need to have a lot of, I know it's been put out. I see it on school doors. I see QR codes so parents can quickly click on them to learn more. Appreciate all that. But yeah, I think the meaningful intentional engagement we have to really share why that's being done and how parents can best support their children and get that feedback from them is critically important. Agree, Dion. So I will certainly share that with the superintendent to understand what we're doing around that. Again, I don't want to put Travis on the spot or anyone else, but I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to share about that right now as it rolls out.
Katie, I just wanted to interject. There's two different things. The curriculum is one thing, and that's Godot. That's not what I'm speaking about. That's mandatory across the state, I believe. It's the removal of acceleration tracks that are allowed. that other districts across Georgia have. So it's
And
the
that's from
removes.
middle school, is what I'm understanding.
Yes, it is being removed from, I can speak for middle school because I attended that presentation. And that is something the local school has decided to do at APS. So it's putting it as a disadvantage when Secretary Cardona raising the bar. And one of the key items on that is providing more accelerated and advanced math tracks for students. In addition, we're pushing more IB and AP classes in high school. It just doesn't make sense. And I think we're being sold something as this is part of the new curriculum updates from Godot. It is not. And we have parents who are professors at Georgia Tech who are passionate about math, who live in the community, who have done extensive research on this, and would love to provide you and anybody else more information about this to truly provide transparency around what is being told to parents and board members and staff.
So one of the things that was being discussed as we walked around for the first day tours with various different people within the organization is we were discussing just taking a hard look at acceleration opportunities across APS in general, not specifically specifically math in middle school, but also all of the opportunities that now our students are, exposed to, including Georgia Virtual, and heaven knows, what other things. I mean, the world has changed a lot in 5 years since the last time we wrote, a regulation about getting credit for demonstrating competency in a subject area. And so, I'm hoping that that really, becomes a conversation. And that we're able to then communicate out to parents and the public about what the coherent strategy is about that in general. So I would say stay tuned because the conversations were
yeah. No, thank you,
hopeful and
Tamara.
lively.
And
Yeah.
we hear you, Dion. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Tamara, what was the last thing you said?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking me.
I'm done.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't cutting you off. Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I mean, innovation and delivery is a guardrail. So yes, and specifically about the math and advanced math, I hear you, Dion. We need to have more conversation about that. So let us, unless anybody wants to share right now some additional information about that piece, let us continue to work with the administration on that and get back with you. And then on the budget, couldn't agree more. I'm excited about the process changing up where we show real alignment. That's very clear around our goals, taking into consideration our guardrails and honoring them. And no, CFO Bracken is already working on that. So I'm excited about that rolling out sooner than later at the beginning of the school year as we work through the budget process, because we have got to show that alignment. We've got to make sure we are focused on supporting our goals, which means also that would mean more support at the school level. So stay tuned for that. And then you also asked about engagement and cluster meetings. Board development has been talking a lot about a community engagement plan for the board that again aligns with our student outcomes focused governance work and us going out collectively and really reaching people who we typically do not reach. That should be our main mission. Always appreciate y'all being here, and I am here for this meeting always. We know there are a lot of families who cannot make this time and that we are not directly engaging with, and we have got to go meet them where they are. So I have put forth, and other board members have been talking about and on board with it, but we need to just work out details. But we talked about it a lot in board development at the last meeting, doing quadrant-based meetings, pairing up clusters, having all these resources available, making sure it's accessible for public transportation, having childcare options, having a student portion where the students have a meeting, having our staff there that yes, works so hard, and making sure that their time is used effectively and efficiently, and they're not running all over the place all the time. So it's kind of like the most bang for your buck. And families and students will get to see all these people and resources at one time, and then people also get to know each other. And yes, that is something that Dr. Battle could attend when she is the interim, or before that, Dr. Herring. So absolutely agree. We have work to do in that area, and know that the board has one engagement plan they come up with. And yes, the administration has theirs, but how we work together to make sure we are reaching the people, the most people effectively with the information they need to know and hearing back from them. It's two-way communication. So lots of great things in the works there. So thank you for continuing to push on that and hold us accountable, because it is absolutely an requirement of us to do that level of engagement. All right. So thank you, Deanna, as always, for a great healthy list of things we need to follow up on too. All right. Sorry, I went on. Keith, is there anyone who hasn't asked a question yet? Anything in the chat that I'm missing? I see 23. And y'all know I'm not going to be able to read that chat and talk to y'all at the same time.
Yeah, no, I think we, have heard from everyone. I think Whitney and Waukesha just have some additional questions.
Okay, cool. We can, and Deanne, I love your healthy list. That's what this is about. That's why I call it healthy. All right. So
it's Whitney and then Waukesha.
Perfect. Thank you, Keith.
Yep.
Yes, Whitney.
Thanks for letting me speak again. Sorry
Absolutely.
to take
I
time.
just want to make sure I wasn't missing anybody.
Yep. No, I appreciate that. Yep. My question is around safety. We had issues last semester, and as of this year, we've already had a bomb threat at Midtown. And so I just want to talk about the safety plan. I want to give a shout out to Morningside. We had a closed YouTube meeting with the resource officer last night that talked through all the drills and how all that works. And Officer Lewis is amazing. So I want to give a shout out to her. But just what's the district? Because we didn't have that experience at Howard. Dr. Bachman was very communicative. I just want to know, is there a district plan for safety as we have these things go on? It was day 2 having a bomb threat at Midtown. We're new to Midtown. So, it was a little disheartening. So I want to hear, like, what are your thoughts on safety and security?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up our SROs, which are excellent. They're well trained. They know the protocol, and there are definitely different levels. And Chief Applin is the best person to talk about that, who's over all the SROs. He's amazing. And I know things are communicated to principals as to what they're supposed to do when. I am not the one who obviously oversees that, so I don't want to try to go through it. But the best point person is always the principal. Go to them first. For Midtown, Dr. Bachman knows exactly what she's doing. And we know Principal Hollis at Howard. I mean, people are trained and have the information. Communication is extremely important. And I think there are these areas sometimes where, we've gotten to a point where it needs to be communicated out no matter what, because people are going to hear things from their students, and there's going to be all this like telephone different information based on who's sharing it. So I've seen of late that just communication is coming out from principals no matter what the incident. But I would have to get something in writing regarding the different levels, depending upon what it is, from the administration to really best answer that question. But I do encourage you all, when you are feeling like we need to have more understanding or better understanding as to what we should expect and what the plan is based on what they can share, because there's some things they'll share overall, but they're not going to give a heads up if they know something, they need to look into something, but they're going to make sure kids are safe. I encourage y'all to ask. You can ask Chief Applin to come to a PTA meeting. He'll come and talk with you all, and he will run through these things in person. He is very good about getting out in the community and talking with people, and with your SROs. So y'all already did the right things to get that direct information, but I'll share this back and see what I can share with you in writing, but I always encourage you to have those conversations with those people and let's talk, and he'll respond. But yeah, it's the world we live in. It is a different place than the one we're kids in school in, but I really do. I know that we have a very well-trained public safety team. So I'm gonna stop there, and I see Waukesha and Akeem, but I
Yeah,
hope that
so
helps.
Waukesha and then Akeem.
And then, yeah, and then I want to pause for a minute so that family engagement can give any updates. I'd love for Matt Underwood to just talk about where he is now, his role. And then I see David. Hi, David. Thank you for being here. You guys are best. Oh,
Hi,
thank-
Katie. Good morning.
Good morning. Akeem, or Waukesha, sorry. Keith, I'm messing you up. Let me be quiet.
No, Hakeem, he didn't go. If he want to go, he can.
Okay.
No, Waukesha, you got to go ahead.
Okay, cool. So this is my question. I just looked it up. So somewhere between maybe 14, 17 could go back further. A joint committee was established, and I know this may be for Tamara. The ball has completely been dropped last year, between the city and the school board. Now, here's the interesting thing. I've seen the superintendent and the mayor together, but I haven't seen the joint committee have a meeting together really effectively, because I think that could bridge a lot of gaps between what the city and the school district can be doing together to better strengthen our schools and our family lives. But that's something that has fell by the wayside. And I know, people have to figure out their schedule. But I don't want us to be creating committees, because when I went back, I seen 2014. I was like, wow, this been around. So if y'all can this year, get meetings going, get the date out in a timely manner, and try to be as effective as we can be, because I think this committee could help resolve a lot of issues that affect both the city and the school.
And I can,
Agreed.
because I'm on that committee, just jump in and say, it does have tremendous potential. We have added county commissioners to the committee, which is amazing. So just hearing Commissioner Hall come and just outline all of the, activities and services the county offers, if we're able to better coordinate these things, we can really start making some progress. Last year, the only official meeting we had was last August. The next time we met was in May, and we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't have an official meeting. And board member Johnson was there for that meeting as well. And I think if she wanted to kind of jump in and say, just even the report out of information, and even though we weren't able to make some decisions, was very promising. And Jessica, if you want to jump in and say something about how you see this might be going.
Yeah, absolutely. And want to also just share that board members are meeting with city council leaders, especially as we're getting back to school, to have informal conversations about, how we can collaborate better. I know I personally have met with several city council members to align, but that meeting in particular had just a host of resources, summer camps, programs, fellowship opportunities for our young people. And I'm hopeful that maybe we can post those resources on our site and share them out, because there was just so many things and some that are going into the school year as well. And so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to continue to share out across our networks, with the city sharing as well some of the things that are available to young people, and ways that we are looking at collaborating so we don't have to have 10 back to school bashes. We can really pour all of the energy and resources into what's working well to have a bigger impact on our students.
Hey, and Katie,
It's happening. I want Keith to share what's already happening.
But
Yeah.
Katie, if I could, I do just want to
Yeah.
say part of to Waukesha is that we were trying to figure out a way to post, and I think we figured that out. So to Jessica's point, Board Member Johnson, I will add that information to Assembly. However, because we did not have a quorum for that meeting, you won't see meeting minutes. But if you click on that link, you would see the document shared by all the updates that were shared by the 3 different entities who were present at that meeting, from City Council to Board of Education and to the commissioners. Again, it was a host of great information shared in that meeting. But if you look on Assembly, it would not have meeting minutes tab, because it wasn't an official meeting because of the lack of quorum. But we'll make sure those resources are posted there on that website. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Thank you, Pierre. And yeah, Keisha, share what's already happening.
I was actually going to echo, thank you, Board Member Johnson. From a resource standpoint, we can also share it on our microsite, Family and Community Engagement. But we are working very closely. We started back our partnership or communication with the City of Atlanta Parks and Rec. And so we're meeting on a recurring basis on some of the resources that City of Atlanta Parks and Recs is offering, as well as a collaborative approach. So to your point, Board Member Howard, City of Atlanta partnered with the Thero Cluster to also have a back to school bash. So in that instance, they actually, as they shared, did a smaller version based on what we're doing on a larger scale. So just being in alignment, maybe it's not the same weekend, or maybe there's some other type of school supplies and or resources that City of Atlanta can offer. And the other thing I wanted to share is that we are, we as in Family Engagement has partnered with findhelp.org as well as our Office of Student Supports. Last year we had a manual process for cluster resource guides, and now it is an online tool. We are still using collaborating or working with United Way 211, but the findhelp.org is a one-stop shop by zip code in your community, outside of your community in the state of Georgia, as well as nationwide, where there are resources that families can actually connect with. So those organizations are listed on this online tool. We will have a way of reporting and tracking as to what resources that our families have been using. Some may be by referrals. It is in real time. So we're excited about that. It's a soft lunch now, but it's going to be a big lunch. I know Travis placed the link in the chat. We started talking about it at the Back to School Bash. We have started communicating it to the schools. We are going to push it out district-wide in the next week or so. So I do want to mention that. And then we are planning early for our Family Engagement Conference. We are seeking feedback across the district. Families, parent liaisons, school leaders to actually help us plan. This event has been very great the past couple of years. We want to make sure that we are receiving feedback from surveys, so it's not to say that we're not taking that into consideration, because we are. That is how we are scaling and or designing our conference. But we really want to ensure this year that we're being very, very intentional, not just from a survey standpoint, but literally having a cross-functional team to help us plan that in November. And I think that is all. Oh, professional learnings. So thank you all to the board members. We are doing those quarterly because we definitely, as we share with everyone, we work directly with our schools from a family engagement lens and ensuring that it is linked to academic learning. So that is the priority first for professional learning, curriculum nights, those types of things. And so we are having it quarterly based upon the feedback, not just from our board members, but families who also participated in our professional learning. So stay tuned for that. Those are some of our signature events.
Thank you so much for all the awesome updates. And one thing I also love about the work you all are doing is you're showing us data, like you're looking and figuring out what has been working and where there are gaps. That really helps us lean in and help support you all. So just know that Keisha and team is really doing the deep dive assessment to figure out what are our needs, and then figuring out how to best align those with our resources and bring in the right resources that, again, meet what different communities need. And I have heard, even though we need to find ways to make sure it's channeled properly around regular meetings that are happening between APS and Parks and Rec, because I'm all about that partnerships. Like, number one, if something happening with APS, it needs to be posted in a rec center, and something's happening with Parks and Recs, it needs to be posted in a school. We need to have QR codes that share information. These are all our kids. And I'm so excited about the leadership that's very committed to that, and the joint committee helping to support that as well. So that is happening. It just, everyone's got to figure out how to best streamline it and leverage it even more. So thank you, Family Engagement, for helping with your huge piece. And I also heard great feedback, Keisha, from the new parent liaison at King about your professional learning. So she was like, it was so awesome. I'm like, who led it? And she's like, family engagement, Keisha Copeland. So everyone at APS is doing tremendous work, and y'all's coordination with Travis and others and their team. So really excited about that moving even further forward and having the goals and the guardrails to make sure we are held accountable to doing that work on the board end to support you all. So thank you for all those updates and those questions that led to that. And then Akeem, I know you have questions. And thank you, Tamara and Jessica, for sharing about joint committee. I know that's a big piece of it. So, and making sure everybody knows what's going on and how we can best collaborate. And then I know I want a couple more people to be able to share updates. So Akeem, thanks for being patient. You still there? Or did we lose you? Uh-oh. All right, well, we'll see if Akeem comes back on, because I definitely want to hear from him. But in the meantime, Matt, can you share just like how partnerships and charters, like your role is shifted a little bit, if you don't mind?
Sure. Yeah, no, not at all. Good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Underwood. I'm the Executive Director of the district's Office of Charter and Partner Schools. And our team works to monitor the district's charter and partner schools to ensure their compliance with the contracts that they have with APS. Also provide support so that those schools can hopefully fulfill their goals and their missions. But one of the things I've been particularly interested in is trying to foster more collaboration between the charter and partner schools and district run schools so that we can find ways to take some of those innovative and impactful practices from district run charter and partner schools and share them with one another and see them hopefully spread across the district. So to that end, one of the things I'm excited about is our team is actually now moved to be a part of the performance division to partner more closely with the district's Office of Innovation, Improvement, and Redesign. So that team, which is Dr. Kevin Maxwell, Dion Simon, and Derek Hardy, and our team are working together to think through ways to more formally foster that collaboration between district-run schools and charter and partner schools in that way. So more to come on that front, but that's some of the work that we are looking forward to this school year. But certainly feel free, I'll put my contact information in the chat if you've got questions particular to charter and partner schools to reach out.
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate that. And yes, please reach out to Matt. You know, people have a lot of questions about the data around charter and partner schools and sharing, you know, how we are best partnering with them to identify things that are working really well and how we can work together, because we're all part of one system and these are all APS kids. So looking forward to seeing how that further develops, because to me, that's the real implementation piece. Like, we say these things, but how are we trying some things that are different? Because schools are incubators. Like, people are doing great things that are working. We just got to make sure we are identifying those and potentially scaling them out when we can, and making sure kids from other schools and clusters have access to those things that are working really well. So, and I will give like a, I guess a little hint. Monday, we'll have a presentation that's going to touch on some things that are hugely important to understanding so that we can improve student outcomes, because we've got to deal with some things that are barriers for our kids learning to their fullest potential in our school. And there'll be a report that gives some transparency there for sure about the realities, and also what's being done to address the things that have got to be addressed in order for our kids to feel welcome and safe in school, and well supported. So stay tuned for Monday for that presentation, and you can find it Sunday night in Assembly. All right, well, we've got like 5 minutes till 10. Anybody have anything else they want to share? Did Akeem get back on? I will text him and apologize. I'm sorry that we lost him. But yeah, I just cannot thank y'all enough for your engagement. The word robust gets old to me, but it's robust and I love it, because it doesn't accurately summarize the variety of questions and the depth and you all's commitment to making sure you hold us accountable, but you're doing the work out in the community too. And this is obviously a gigantic team effort, so can't do it alone, and appreciate you all always coming on with questions and feedback, and looking forward to many more opportunities this year and how we do it more collectively as a board with this dynamic team at APS. So I know some things from the chat. I'm so sorry. I'm not good at reading through that quickly. But no, you can always reach me. You can reach anybody on this call. They are accessible. And if you don't remember their name or their email, put it into Let's Talk. And if you put the subject matter, it will go to them. And if for some reason you don't hear back, let me know or let Keith know, or Tamara or Jessica. Really appreciate my colleagues being on today and fielding some questions that, yeah, it takes all of us in our different roles and jobs on the board talking about. So with that, anything else? And Melinda, I saw one pop up. You're at M. Agnes Jones, and I don't know. Let's see, question about uniform safety. Yeah, so I'll real quickly, and if anybody wants to chime in on the uniforms, you know, it's based it's a school level decision. Principals decide that with their teams whether or not there'll be uniforms and the dress code. So encourage you to talk with your principal. I think that's a great one for the Go team too at your schools, to make sure, you know, people have a pulse on what's going on in the school and they're getting feedback and sharing expectations with all families. But for instance, my kids at Jackson had another change to the dress code, and that's fine. I think it's great that the principal took feedback from last year from the students. And we know our priority is making sure our kids are in school and feel supported and are learning and engaged and feel welcomed. But we also, you know, need to talk about what's appropriate in terms of what we should be wearing to school that sets up an environment that's really the best for learning. And there's some shifts there, but and we're all definitely evolving as we should in terms of, you know, the perceptions around dress codes and what it means and how kids are sometimes treated differently around it. But Jackson has theirs. King has implemented more of a stricter dress code this year. And then Parkside kind of has the same thing. So that's just a small example, but I encourage you to talk with your principal around concerns and other Go team leadership people in the school. And then always reach out to your board member if, you know, you really just need some more assistance. And you can always reach out through Let's Talk too, but happy to have a conversation about that separately too. But those decisions are made at the school level. I appreciate y'all so much. Happy Friday. I hope, even if it's been a lot this week, it's been a good week, and that your kids are coming home excited about being back in school. That is always something that, you know, paying attention to that, like, do your kids want to go to school? And that is the most important thing, because if they're not, then we need to have a conversation about that and how we can best support. But even with it being sometimes a little overwhelming, wanting them to, you know, feel always supported and excited to go in to school every day, even days that are a little more challenging than others, that they have those people they can lean on at school who are obviously educating them in many ways about academics and life. So y'all have a great weekend. Board meetings on the 7th, hopefully FMP update at the end of the month. Stay tuned. Also, as we transition, of course, with the superintendent search process, that will absolutely require a lot of community engagement. So that will be forthcoming as well. And yeah, definitely, you know, as we transition, supporting Dr. Herring in this transition, all of us, and our incoming interim, Dr. Battle, who will be great for the district. And we're excited about her return in this role. So thank you all so much and have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you next time, if not before. Take care. Bye. Thank you all so much.